Pete, or Kenshin1913, along with
Mom.
And this is another Cooking with Kenshin1913. What are we making today?
Snickerdoodle Cookies.
Oh yeah.
Hi, we're going to make Snickerdoodle Cookies, which is it has a buttery, cinnamony flavor. They're very good any time of the year, but this happens to be Christmas time, so this is traditional for us. This is just one of the cookies that we make at the Christmas time for our cookie platter.
So what are the ingredients here, Ma?
Okay, what you're going to have are 2 sticks of, I happen to use margarine, so it's 1 cup of margarine, which equals 2 sticks, or you can also use butter, and it would be the same measurement. It would be 2 sticks of butter. We are going to use 1.5 cups of sugar. We are going to use 2 3/4 cups of flour.
Yep.
We have 2 eggs. We are going to be using 2 teaspoons of cream of tartar.
Now what's that?
That helps things rise. So we're not putting baking powder in this to make it rise. We're using the cream of tartar. That also gives the cookie a little bit different flavor.
Yeah.
We're going to use 1 teaspoon of baking soda. And so those sometimes people get confused on. So there's baking soda and there's baking powder. Baking powder makes things rise.
Yes.
We're going to use a pinch of salt.
Salt.
And then what we've done is we've taken another 2 or 3 tablespoons of sugar, granulated sugar, and then 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, and mix this all together, because this is what you're going to actually roll the cookie dough in before it bakes. One of the other things that you would need when you're baking is you definitely need to have measuring spoons. You need to have a dry measuring cup and a liquid measuring cup. Believe it or not, these are different when you are baking. Baking is a science. That's why they call it a recipe, and it's actually chemistry. So people have put things together to make it work in a certain way. So that's something that you would definitely need to have before you start baking. We happen to be using a mixer,
stand-up
mixer. You don't have to use this. I ended up getting this a few years ago. It ends up saving some time for you. It also saves you from doing a lot of mixing. But before I had this, I would just mix all of my ingredients the way that they're supposed to be mixed by hand, and cream everything, and then add my flour and so forth. But if you do have a hand mixer, KitchenAid mixer, it's a great help.
Yeah. Also,
but you don't need it.
Also, I want to let you know you're gonna get some cookie sheets.
Cookie sheets.
Put parchment paper on.
These are a half a sheet of. It's a half a sheet size. You can choose any kind of pans you want. I also use parchment paper. Parchment paper is great. You don't have to grease your pans. You actually can reuse them, so it doesn't have to be just for one batch of cookies. And parchment paper you can get in any kind of a bakery store or the bakery section of the store. They even have parchment paper in all grocery stores. It's near where the tinfoil and saran wrap is.
Yeah, you could also use like a silica pad if you have it.
Yes, you can.
And so we're gonna preheat our oven to 350 degrees as we begin to get our cookies rolling.
Okay, I already pre-measured these, so you can do that,
but
we'll remind you. Have to. What we're going to add first are
our butter,
the shortening, or the shortening,
shortening,
as people would call it.
But so what? Let me ask you this: what attachment would this be?
This is the paddle.
This is the paddle, the regular attachment you would call it?
Yes.
Because there's a couple different ones that come with this.
There's a hook for doing breads, and then there's another one that's like a whisk, and that would be when you're beating something up to make it fluffy.
So I'm gonna try to get like this angle so you guys can see the mix as we're mixing. But anyway, so we're putting in 1 cup of margarine or butter,
which is, remember, the 2 sticks. Everything
Yeah.
I know Peter will put it all up for you.
Yeah. Anyways, before we start cracking some eggs, Ma, where did we learn? Where'd you learn how to make Snickerdoodles?
Well, my grandmother and actually even my mother, we were all bakers. And my grandmother used to make about 15 or 20 different kind of cookies for Christmas. And she actually started making this. And then when I was a little girl, my mother bought me a cookie book.
Yes.
And I'll show you. This is actually a new one.
Yeah, we have the old
same
one.
one. It's the Betty Crocker cookie book. It's been around for I don't know how long. Long time.
Yeah.
And in here there's all different kinds of cookies. So sometimes my grandmother would follow the recipe totally or alter it a little bit, but the Snickerdoodles is the actual traditional cookie that comes from this book.
That book is so awesome that I consider that the cookie Bible in my house, where if you ever need a recipe for any kind of cookie, you would start off with that cookbook to look and see if there's any cookies in there. Like, there's all different kinds of cookies. The sad thing about that cookie book is that it actually has been discontinued. And I did one Christmas, like 4 Christmases ago, I bought like 5 copies to give to one of each of us, of our, my brother, my siblings and all that.
Yeah,
and it's just a great book.
My original book, I hate to show you what it looks like because it's been used so often, pages are starting to fall out.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is to start this on low so we can incorporate the butter and the eggs.
And this is a process right here. This is called creaming. We're kind of creaming the eggs and the butter or margarine. Now my mom's going to
start to add the sugar.
And yeah, if you don't have a mixer, you can definitely do it by hand.
You can do it by hand. You just have a big spoon and you start to soften up. You want to have your butter at room temperature. You don't want to take it right out of the refrigerator because it'll be really, really hard to incorporate. And as you can see, once now the eggs and the sugar and butter, it's actually getting lighter.
Yeah. And this is called the creaming process. And you always want to start with your wet ingredients, correct?
Correct.
Before you go to your dry, which dry would just be the flour. I guess sugar is technically considered wet.
Yeah.
Or no?
Well, yeah. It always goes right after your shortening and your eggs. The sugar always goes in next.
Yeah. So
and
what do we
then
got next? Those 2 eggs. That was how much sugar again? That was
a cup and a half.
A cup and a half of sugar.
You're gonna have the whole recipe.
Yeah, I'll have the whole all the ingredients in the video description. So now we're going to put a
teaspoon of baking
soda. So as you can see, my mom's taking it right out of the thing. You gotta make sure that it's
level.
Yeah, it's level with the top of the spoon. You don't want to put too much in. Like she was saying,
you don't want to have it heaping.
Yeah, like she was saying, sometimes baking is a science. And you really have to make sure that you're doing the proper ratios. So I got a question for you, Ma. Like, I remember back in the day when our uncle owned a grocery store, you used to make dozens and dozens and dozens of these cookies, different types of cookies.
We would start about the week before the holiday, and we would go over to the store in the evening, and we would make several batches of the same kind of cookie. And what we would do is, we would get them so that we have big containers to keep them, and then we would put them in trays to make actual cookies. Like a party tray.
A cookie platter.
Yep. So this is the cream of tartar.
Yeah, that's one.
And we're adding 2 teaspoons.
So she would. Her and my dad.
We'd actually have other friends of ours who would come and help, and it ended up really being a fun time. A lot of work, but a fun time.
Yeah. I can imagine. Shame that store isn't open anymore. Anywho's, so we got ourselves the cream of tartar, and this is a great cookie to make not only during Christmas time or any time really. We're making it for Christmas. Reason being is because
and I'm putting my pinch of salt in it.
There we go. Well, because we have to, you know, we're gonna make them. This is a traditional cookie for our, because we usually trade cookies too. And one of the reasons why we're making it so early is because I've got a cookie swap where I got to swap some cookies.
Okay, now I'm going to start to add some of the flour.
You don't want to add all the flour at once because that'll make it lump up too much and it won't mix right.
Correct.
So just put in a little bit at a time.
And as you can see, you know, it's starting to incorporate
get in there.
And this is all-purpose flour.
Yeah. Oh, what was another thing I was going to mention? Yeah, Snickerdoodles are really good. Oh, another thing that I was going to mention, now I remember what I was going to say. If you're making these cookies, because we usually make a bunch during the holiday time, Christmas time, and we always do a trade with our friends, whoever, because everyone usually makes cookies around this time, and you know.
And everybody has their favorites.
Yeah, and cookies actually are a pretty nice gift to give if you're given like a nice cookie platter. That's kind of nice. So we got this. You want this kind of consistency here, and if you feel like it's a little too wet sometimes, like let's say maybe you added a little too much eggs or something, or
it might have been like an over large egg or something.
You can always add a little bit of flour and whatnot. All right, so we've got ourselves. I know this isn't as close as I'd like it to be.
All right, now I'm going to show you something. See this here?
Yeah.
And it's really sticking. So this here came a little bit softer than I would like it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to put a little bit more flour in. So this is something that you kind of got to judge. See that it's just a little bit too wet to roll.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to have to roll these into little balls because then we're going to actually put them in here. In our cinnamon sugar.
So I'm going to put that under, adding about a quarter of a cup of flour. Okay, I added about a quarter of a cup of flour.
And we're going to mix it a little bit more because apparently it was not, it's a little too wet.
It was a little wet.
Yeah.
So,
cookie's a little too wet with Vin Diesel.
So now I just put a tiny bit more in.
Yeah.
And I'm going to see.
You know what? As you learn the science of baking, you can kind of mess with it.
See, it's a little tacky. See that? And it has to be a little bit tacky, but not quite that much.
Yeah, because you want the cinnamon sugar to stick on there.
Yeah, and you know, it could be sometimes because of the
eggs
are a little bit bigger. The margarine is a little bit, maybe a little bit too soft.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had ours at room temp. You could probably, I guess you could just do it right out of the fridge, right?
Yeah, no, but if you're doing it by hand, it's not gonna mix right.
Yeah.
It'll be really, really hard like a rock. Okay. That's much better.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So let's start a little assembly.
Okay, here we are with our consistency.
Yeah, as you can see.
It's not quite as gooey, so it doesn't totally stick on your fingers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you can't have, it's going to stick on your fingers, but the thing about it is you want it to stick to our cinnamon and sugar mixture. So what my mom's going to do, this is going to be a great part to do for the kids, is she's going to put them, she's going to make them into little balls, and you're just going to kind of, this is where you'll need a helper, and you're going to kind of just roll it up in the cinnamon, and then put it on our cookie sheet. And I'll show you how that's going to work. And what kind of size balls would you say you're going to make these into, like 1 inch or so?
Yeah.
And you're going to place them about 1 inch or 2 away from each other, as you can see. This is by the way would be a great thing to have little kids help you out, because they, you know, if they get involved in cooking, it makes it more fun for them. And don't worry about these balls or the
Now,
cookies.
see, that one's a little bit too big.
Yeah.
And this one's a little bit too small.
Yeah, you see, this one is too small. This one's a little too big. All right, and that's the beauty of it. All right, homemade cookies are not uniform like you would get in the thing. So, like you would get in a store.
You should be able to almost roll it. See?
Yeah. You should be able to get like
I don't know what size this would be.
Nah.
I don't know what you would call this.
kind of ping pong ball. So this recipe, I don't know if we mentioned it yet, but it makes 6 dozen cookies. That's 72.
Around that.
Yeah, around 72, depending on
Plus or minus.
depending on how many you do. So, like I was saying,
And you don't want to put them too close because they do puff up.
they will puff up and then flatten out.
Yes.
Let me do it with this hand so you can actually see what I'm doing. So as you can see, I'm just rolling it in the cinnamon sugar mixture. And yeah, you gotta get like a little assembly line going here. You get a bunch of helpers in here. You turn on some Christmas music, and you just rock out.
Oh yeah, kids love to do this.
Yeah, this is their favorite.
Roll it.
This is their favorite part, just rolling. And the second thing they like doing is eating them as well. Bless you. All right, so what we're gonna do is continue to make these cookies, and we'll be back when we have enough to throw in the oven. Then basically you're going to throw them in the oven, right? At 350 degrees for about 8 to 10 minutes, right?
Yes.
And then you could probably fit.
They just want to be slightly brown on the bottom.
Yeah, we'll show you what they're gonna look like to have them out, and we'll tell you how long. But yeah, you could probably, depending on the size of your cookie tray, you could probably fit probably 12, maybe 15 cookies. So yeah, once again, let's just kind of go through. You got your cinnamon sugar mixture. You're gonna put them on here, and I'll show you how much space you should probably leave each cookie. So yeah, these cookies are great.
That's the whole thing about making cookies.
Yeah.
In Christmas time, it's fun to make them with the whole family.
Yeah.
There's very few cookies that I have to make just myself.
Yeah.
Because you're-
So you can just keep putting them in there. What else were you gonna say? Anything else? I didn't want to cut you off now. Sorry.
No, just it's fun to make them with the family.
Yeah. So we have our tray of cookies here. I'm gonna throw them in the oven at 350 again, bake for about 8 to 10 minutes, and then we'll come back and show you what the finished product should look like.
Okay, here we are with a finished product.
This has been 20 minutes in the oven, or until they look like this.
So see, they're just nice on the bottom, and they're a little brown because that's cinnamon.
Yeah.
Okay, but see how they
See how they flattened out also?
Yeah, they puffed up and then they flatten out.
Yeah.
So Snickerdoodles are not a chewy cookie; they're more of a crispy cookie. So when you eat them, they've got that little buttery crunch to them.
Mm-hmm. So
And cinnamon.
So let us eat them. All right, so we got our Snickerdoodles here, which would be a perfect cookie for Santa, along with his milk. So let's take some. I'll share the wealth this time because it's so good. Nice and crunchy.
Mm-hmm.
Very buttery. You got the nice cinnamon and sugar on the outside.
Great with a cup of tea.
Oh
or
yeah.
a cold glass of milk.
Yeah. So you know what else would be great around this time of year? A Cooking with Kenshin1913 apron. That's right. If you go to the SD SD link in the bottom, I have a store set up where you can buy yourself one if you'd like. So yeah, check it out if you want. So these Snickerdoodles are delicious, and yeah, this has been. We hope you enjoy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Merry Christmas.
Happy New Year.
Happy holidays. We hope you make these cookies yourselves because they're just so damn good. So, this is Pete, along with
Mom.
And this has been another Cooking with Kenshin1913.
Enjoy and happy eating, and see you soon.